Hello, welcome to Ceri D's Artistry and Design. I'm Ceri D and today we're going to be looking at quick rolled roses. These roses are based on fabric effects. These roses are not meant to be botanically correct and definitely are for things like cupcakes, wedding cakes, and can be put on wires. So let's go ahead and look at some material and equipment you'll need to do these. The materials and equipment I use for my quick roll roses are as follows. For these roses I'm going to use the FMM straight frill cutters, set number 3, 9 to 12, but I am actually only using those two out of it, but it is a very handy set to have. I'm going to use 18 gauge wire should I wish to mount the rolled roses onto wires, obviously our non-stick rolling pin, small palette knife. I would need a pair of wire snips for my wires, also the pointy nose pliers to put a hook in the end. I've got a cell stick for thinning. I love my pizza cutter, so I use my pizza cutter a lot. Essential bit of equipment. A calyx cutter can be whichever calyx you choose. Corn flour or cornstarch, which I use for rolling out with. A koi pen or a water pen. You could actually use just a regular paintbrush and edible glue. Today I'm going to be using modelling paste. You can use flour paste or modelling paste. Sugar paste you can use, but I tend to find it doesn't dry enough for me. And then I've got my regular flour pad. So let's take a look and look at the very first one we're going to do, which is a quick rolled rose. Okay, I've taken some of my modelling paste. As I said, you could use petal paste. You can do these with sugar paste, although I find that they don't set firm enough for me and I tend to damage them. But if they are going onto a cupcake, then you should be fine. I'm just rolling my piece into a thin strip. If you do happen to use a pasta machine, these are ideal for that because you can roll out quite wide strips and do them very quickly, and that's what these rose types are all about. These are not meant to be our botanically correct roses. These are just fabric effect roses or quick roll roses, as I said. These roses were inspired for me by doing quilling techniques, which I do within my crafting. So rolling it reasonably thin, but as I said, not so thin that it's the same depth as I would for making my flowers. Okay, there you go. Let's take that out of your way. Now, I'm using the straight frill cutter that I've got from FMM. Put it in. Make sure it's cut through firmly. You could use any of the frill cutters out on the market, and you can actually use the smaller version if you wanted to make smaller roses. So make sure that's released from the board. Using my pizza cutter, just tidy up the excess, take it off. Tidy off the excess, take it off. Put that to one side, making sure it's covered at all times. Then getting the foam pad that we normally use for our flowers. I'm going to use my cell stick, and what I want to do is actually thin out these top edges just enough so that they're not going to look too heavy on the rose itself. This will also give them a bit of a gentle curve, which will assist you when you're actually shaping the rose. Just a little bit. You can take a lot longer than I'm doing at this present time. Okay, so I've got my roses. Get rid of that. Put that to one side. I'm going to turn it over so that the curve goes away from me. Now I'm going to take that good old pizza cutter, essential part of a cake decorator's equipment box. Straighten the edge off there. Again, put that under cover out the way. Going to take my koi pen or water brush, or if you're using edible glue, my edible glue brush, I'm going to put a line down there, just a little extra on that corner. I'm then going to lift this over, fold it down on itself, and that will actually be the start of my center of my rose. I'm going to carefully roll that up just to get it started. That's the most difficult bit. Then as we go, I'm going to roll, trying to keep the petals relatively the same height. And don't roll it too tightly. Rolling it too tightly means you'll just get a really bad spiraled rose. You won't be able to shape it in any way. Okay. These can be done in chocolate paste as well. I know Renshaw's has got a chocolate paste out there that tastes quite good. So if you're making chocolate roses for the top of cupcakes or mini cakes, that's another option for you now. Now, once I've put my rose together, I'm going to roll it in my fingers a little bit. This will start to open the rose out for you. Give yourself a bit of a taper. Put it down, then using your cell stick again, go in and pull the petals out just slightly so you've got some room to work on them. Once they're in place, just give them a bit of a natural curve. You can take a lot longer than I'm taking on this if you wish. And that's roughly how I do my quick roll roses. They can be dusted, you can spray them, you can glitter them. Whichever food safe articles you're using on these, just make sure that they're not toxic. To finish them off, I then go into the back using my palette knife and just cut the back off, and that will give you the rose. And we'll look at what we can do with those a little later on. So we're now going to move on and we're going to look at some fabric roses which were inspired by Gary Chapman, or the inspiration for these came directly from Ceri Vincent's book on romantic wedding cakes. Now what I've done here is I've taken my modelling paste, I've rolled it quite thinly. As I said, you can do this with petal paste as well. Rolled out a strip. The length of your paste will determine the size of your rose. So taking my koi pen again, or my glue brush, whatever I'm using, just do a line along there, fold this over, marry the two together. I don't want to flatten out that edge too much because I want the rounded effect. Then taking my ever ready pizza cutter, roll that down there to cut off the excess. Put that to one side, not to dry out. Now using my brush again, I'm just going to moisten the end there, run it along the length of the paste, taking a small palette knife, fold that over at a 90-degree angle. That will actually give you the centre of your rose. Now when you pick this up and roll it, remember you don't want to roll it too tight. You occasionally want to put a pleat into it. That will give the paste the illusion of a petal. There you go, a bit more. You can reshape these when they're finally rolled anyway, so don't worry too much as you go along. If they're looking a little peculiar on you, they will work themselves out, as you'll see. Now when I come to the end, I like to fold this one back so it folds down. Give it a bit of a squeeze to make sure all of the bulk is actually stuck together. Then taking a knife, I'll go in, take off the excess. That will give me a flat surface there. Now as you can see by the top of the rose, I can now go in and I can play around with the way the fabric has fallen within the rose, just to give it a bit more of an illusion. And that will give you your fabric rose, which you could normally then put directly onto the side of the cake. If, however, you do want to put it onto wire, I'm using an 18 gauge wire here. I would moisten my wire, I would insert my wire into the back of the rose, then work my paste so that it actually comes down and joins the wire. Once I've done that, I would then use just my regular calyx cutter, cut a green calyx, and I would put one in, and that's one I finished earlier. Great Blue Peter moment, but that's what we're looking to achieve. Okay, they're great for wiring, they're great for sticking on top of cupcakes, and they're great for putting directly onto a cake itself. Now, let's look at some leaves that will go with these. So let's take a look at fabric roses. Again, I've taken my modelling paste. This could be flour paste, it could be sugar paste. We've already discussed the options on this. I've rolled it quite thinly, just a bit of corn flour so I don't have it sticking to any of my work surfaces. Same technique as with the roses. I'm going to put a line across there with my koi brush. I'm going to fold this over to get that fabric effect. I have quite a long piece of paste here because I tend to like to make my leaves in pairs. The reason I do this is because I then end up with two leaves that are reasonably the same size. So I've taken that, folded it over, I'm cutting it a half, put one to the side. Now taking this, fold it in the middle so that both ends meet at the bottom, like that. Then holding that in my thumb, I'm going to give that one more turn in, one more turn in. and then I tend to squeeze it to give myself a rough leaf shape. Then using my pizza cutter, I go in, take off the excess, then reshape it with your thumb and finger until you've got an acceptable leaf shape. Okay, one more time I'll show you that one. Taking my paste that's already folded over, fold it in the middle, then holding it in your thumb, fold one side in, the other side in. When you've got them close enough together at the bottom, work the paste so it sort of sticks to itself. Go in with, it could be a knife that you use for this, I just use my pizza cutter for everything. Once I've got it all folded together, I then give it a bit more of a play just to get a rough leaf shape. I'm trying to taper it down a bit so this area here isn't as bulky. And that's how I make two of my fabric leaves. Now you can obviously dust these, you could dust them with satin effect, you could actually spray them. So now we've done the leaves, we've done the roses, let's see some of the examples of what you can do with them.